Here we go. Hello everybody, welcome to this extraordinary meeting of Holbridge Parish Council here at the Chambers. Just a quick fire drill, we all know where the way out is. If we can all just collect somewhere out there, and just to check that everyone's, nobody else in the building. So I'm going to introduce each agenda item. Please stand to address council. If members wish to debate an item, please clearly raise your hand and I will invite you to speak in turn. When voting on an agenda item, please clearly raise your hand. There's no open forum today, so I will proceed to instate standing orders and commence with our first agenda item, which is 2022/3-036, and it's apologies for absence. Please, Jan.
I've had no apologies, but Councillor Tim Wiltshire is absent with no apologies.
So 2022/3-037 is declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011 and to consider any requests for dispensations in respect of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in agenda items. Do we have any members requiring to make a declaration of interest? Okay, if we get to an agenda item and you feel that you need to, just let me know. So item 2022/3-038 is to resolve to agree the additional spend on a zero-turn lawn mower. Whose agenda item is this, please?
Well,
yeah, I suppose it's, yeah.
Mark?
Looking into the cost of zero-turn lawnmowers is where this one's come from. We've had quite a few quotes come in. Obviously there's differences in relation to the commercial warranties that are offered on these machines, and also the difference between being a commercial stroke machine and a domestic based machine, which obviously leads into the commercial warranty on it. There was one that the clerk had looked into and had been offered us that had got a good spec. It was is a good price based on the spec of the machine, but I think it was just to put that on there to agree the additional funding that would be required to purchase that machine.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
well, a little bit of input if
I've got. Was that a hand up here, Isabel?
No.
So we do Rick and then
You reckon?
yeah.
No, I was just going to say, we've actually got the funds in open spaces in the tractor fund and the machinery fund. We have a balance of 7.3, so you would need an additional £995 to cover the cost of it. What I don't want to do is see anything coming out of reserves or contingencies yet, because we're not even all the way through the year and things are going to be tight this year with the cost of fuel and everything else shooting up.
Quite. Rachel.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, there's a lot of us to and fro and looking as well. It just gives us that little bit of extra scope to grab on since we do see them, basically.
Okay, so where's this 995 come from? Is that the one based on the one
Based on that,
Jan's?
and looking at several of the others, which are round about that figure as well, it just gives us that little bit more to just say, yes, we get it.
That's fine. So
I'm just going to throw one bit in. Steve threw one bit in before the meeting started. Just raising the question, do we need to buy a brand new one? Could we get a second hand one? He knows a dealer in the area that deals in zero-turn mowers, etc., etc., etc. So that's perhaps something that you might want to look at before we go ahead and buy it. I'm not saying delay or anything.
No, but it's given us that little bit of option.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things on the table which we didn't have yesterday.
okay, Mark.
My only concern in relation to, again, buying new and spending circa £7,000 for a mower, if we can get one for £5,000, then that gives us a £2,000 to fix the Kabuto, which means then that we've got 3 mowers. My take on the fact of the zero turn, it was for the cemetery primarily and nothing more. Whereas if we've got the 2 mowers that's working, they can be for the bigger areas, Kabuto being in for the smaller areas, the more tight areas, which then leads that to being within the commercial hours.
Yeah.
So I'm all up for looking into going the second-hand route, you know, in that sense.
Yeah.
Steve?
I think it's crazy spending £5,000 on a mower just to save a couple of hours on them and their necks to walk around the graveyard. That seems a lot of money for a couple of hours of saving time.
There's some good points there. So just to take us back to the agenda item, it's asking us to agree an additional spend. From what I'm actually hearing is that we're not actually in a position where we want to agree now. So we've got the avenues that need exploring first.
I think the idea was that when we got to open spaces, there was options on the table which we wouldn't be able to agree because we didn't have that extra budget. If we've got that extra budget, the work can go into looking at the different options. The idea of the zero-turn mower, yes, primarily the idea was to use it for the Park Road Cemetery. The areas that they cut at the moment is the churchyard, Park Road Cemetery and Cars Park. So closed churchyard is the same situation, going between graves. It's a very small area, they'd also use it for that. The park, they mainly use the big Kubota, but in between the play equipment and stuff like that, they can use the zero turn as well. So there's options, but if we've got that additional spend agreed, then we can just liaise with the parks team, you know, liaise with people who've got expertise on the council and find one that is suitable and just purchase it. If we don't get the extra spend, we're going to be limited and we'll have to keep coming back and forth, and it's going to take too much time. That was the idea.
Mark?
The only other thing I would suggest is looking at the lead time on new. If we was looking new, obviously bringing that to the table, the fact of a second hand is, in my mind, a good idea, especially if we've got a link to do that. But in relation to the new, if we're looking at currently, we can't get one because the lead time on something that's going to cost us £4,500, for instance, the lead time on that is going to get to September. My take potentially on that would maybe be hang fire till September, save that extra money, use that money to fix the Kubota. We've got win-win in that context. They've been cutting it by hand for such that amount of time. So in that sense, you know, I would also put that to the table in the sense of utilising that.
So apologies. The work on the other Kubota, if it goes ahead, we've already got some money in reserves for that in the. Yeah, go for
So
it.
you can't use this money to repair the Kubota because it comes from it comes from a different budgeting pot.
So we have to shuffle budgets around if we had to, wouldn't we?
You have to make the tough decision.
But the take on that is, you know, if we spend £7,000 now,
Yeah.
and we could get it for 4.5, whichever pot that comes out of makes no difference really. That's £2,500 we can use for alternative funding, whereas opposed to spending £7,000 on a machine and then £2,000 to repair it. I just think that's overkill on what we've got currently, personally.
Okay, so sat here as chair, we've been asked to consider the agenda item, which Sophie's explained was basically a safety net if all else failed. You had the ability to spend the money. So I understand what you're saying. It sounds to me like there's a lot more work that the committee needs to do to decide if you're going to go second hand with Steve's help, probably trying to source something, money for Kubota. There's a lot of work still here to be done. So my question to the table would be, here we are to resolve to agree the additional spend. Do we have a proposer and a seconder for this additional spend when there's obviously other things that we've just talked about?
I might propose it so that we have got that safety net first.
Push the budget up to 7,000.
So we have a seconder. All those in favour?
Just to ensure that we've got a bit of scope.
Voting.
Well, yeah, I'm not voting.
So you're not voting?
Well, like I say, I just think that there's more discussion that's needed
Yeah.
without.
We need to come back.
Yes,
to what else we got.
personally, yeah.
The idea of this point is to give you the flexibility should you need it,
Yeah.
and if you don't need it, I know you won't spend it because that's what it's all about.
Okay. Then on that context, I will vote.
Yeah.
And then you need as a committee to go back and exhaust
Yes.
every single avenue.
Yep.
All right, so that is passed. Okay. Thank you, guys. Item 2022/3-039 is HR, Health and Safety and Data Protection Committee. And item A is to elect a member to HR, Health and Safety and the Deputation.
Door shutting at this point.
No, not for that bit.
No, not that bit.
No, I'm just a bit cautious.
Can I put a proposal forward?
Of course you can.
I'd like to propose Peter joins the HR committee. He's got a lot of, he's been used to dealing with the public for many, many years, I think.
I'd
He's a
second
good
that
person.
if you're happy.
Probably put him off.
All those in favour of Peter and HR? Okay, that's agreed.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Peter. Welcome to HR. So Sophie will bed you in quite nicely there. Okay, so here we go to exclude the press and the public under the Public Bodies Administration to Meetings Act 1960 due to the confidential nature of business to be transacted. Do we have a proposer, please? Sophie, a seconder, Rachel. All those in favour? Thank you very much, and that's the meeting closed.